Welcome to the Soberish Uprising. My name is Holly Crevo, a former heavy drinker who started a Soberish Uprising of her own a year and a half ago, and everything changed. On Soberish Uprising, we talk stories about sobriety, sober-ish, California sober, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, finding freedom from booze and our best life. And so today I am here with my online friend, Erin. Hello, Erin.
Hi.
It's so good. So I discovered you on TikTok and you were so cute. You have this post. You're like, where are all the cool girls talking about sobriety? I'm like, it's me. And then I told you I got off TikTok because I'm not an adult and can't control myself. But I wanted to have you on, and you're so outspoken about your sobriety, and I love your honesty. And I just was so excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, tell me, before we get into it, tell us a little about yourself, like where you're from, like your social situation, like tell us a little about you.
I am from Nova Scotia, Canada, and I'm a mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom of two girls. They're 6 and 7. And yeah, that's like all consuming.
I was about to say that's a lot. That's like many layers underneath those. Yeah. Well, tell me, I would love to know where you are right now on your sober journey. Like actually, let me rephrase that. I saw a post and you said like your husband and you were doing dry January and you were like, new year, new us bullshit, right? Like same thing, whatever. So tell me a little bit about what made you start that new year, new us.
Okay. So, it was honestly, do you know Daniel Peterson? He's on, I don't know, he's kind of like on sober TikTok. He's like this guy. Anyway, so my husband and we ended up seeing the exact same TikTok, and we went to show each other and be like, oh, look at this TikTok. And I was like, I was just going to show you this. And he was talking about how he started dry January 1 year, and then he just never stopped. Right. And he was just like, the way he described his drinking sounded a lot like me and sounded a lot like us. So we're like, well, let's do dry January. Like I never ever thought to do that ever in my life because it's so lame.
Nerds.
Oh, you can't handle your booze?
Yeah.
So maybe we should, because January is such a good time to do something like that, right? And we had a very wet January. I mean, December.
Yeah.
So then we're like, okay, let's do this. And then as I started, like I just documented it on TikTok, and like I just had such an overwhelming response from people. It felt like all my sobriety feelings and videos like just took off, and like I was getting I had like 400 followers on TikTok, and then like as of right now, in the span of like 4 or 5 months, I have like 21,000 followers. It just blew up like that over me talking about my struggles with alcohol or what I'm finding during being sober. And then after that month, I was just like, well, as it was happening, I was like, this is totally my sign to stay sober.
Yeah.
Like I should probably keep going with this. So each month I kind of just say, yeah, I think I'm just going to keep going. And I think I'm on my 6th month of sobriety.
Okay.
There's 6th month. I don't count.
You don't count. Okay. Interesting. So you're not counting.
No, because I find like if I can't be like, I'm this many days or I'm this, because I find it's too much. I'm thinking about it too much. I do better when it's just like off the table, when I don't think about it, and I can just kind of look back and go, oh, it was January. Oh wow, oh, go me.
Look at me doing things. That's so funny because like I love this. I have a calendar.
Yes.
And it has my total days sober-ish and the streak I'm on. And so I think it's like, I love that this motivates me, but you're like, that's not my thing.
Well,
like,
it's
so
funny.
Good.
I do the calendar. So
you do? Okay.
So I could see the X's, but I just don't know the total days.
What Okay.
So I'm like,
that's very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, tell me, you said something, how comfortable you all sharing, like, what were your, what were your drinking habits before you started this like sober journey? Like what was a typical week for you?
Oh my God. It was like, I don't know. It just felt so normal what we were doing. So I described it before, and it was just like at 4 o'clock, I would like start to make dinner and like have wine, or it would be like cocktail hour, let's have a beer, and like sun's out, wine's out. And then like, so then you have like a drink while you're cooking, drink or two. And then like maybe with dinner, you'd have a drink. And then like, because I have kids, we'd like put them to bed. And while we were waiting for them to actually go to sleep, we would have a drink. And then after they were asleep, we'd be like, woohoo.
Yeah.
Drink. And then we'd be like, do you want to watch another episode of our show? Let's have another drink.
Yeah.
And because you chunk it into like different hours, all at the same time, it was just spread out throughout an evening. It didn't, you were doing that much. Like, it didn't seem like we were drinking that much, but we were. And then we were doing it like every day, like literally like every day. And it wasn't to the point where we'd be like wasted or anything, like obviously impaired, but like over time, the tolerance is so high, you're just like, now we're going to bed, la la la. Yeah. But like, it was just all the time. And it was just like, oh, like, yeah. So, and I feel like that's like what I felt adults do too. Like, I'm a mom do. Like, I'm an adult. Like, oh, we had a long day. Let's like, there's nothing problematic with this. We're drinking. We're not partying. We're just having relaxing drinks.
Yes.
Take a step back. You're like, actually,
wait a minute.
No. So it was never like a dependency. Like I always say that to myself to be like, oh, well, I'm not waking up in the morning needing a drink. There's I don't know who taught that. That's what the definition of alcoholism is, but it is not it. But like for me, it's like once I start, I can't stop. So that's like the type of alcohol dependency I have. So it was like every time, as soon as I started, I'd be like, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And then just every day would be the same thing. So it was just like, it wasn't enough to make me really be like, oh my God, I have this shameful secret. But like when I looked around at other people, I was like, oh, I'm drinking more than everybody else.
Yeah. And so you guys both saw that TikTok, and like, what do you remember? Like, what was the message that you were like, was there a message, or was it more of like, I'm just going to try this out for a month and then I'll have a drink February 1st? Like, or was it like a conviction for you?
It was kind of like, okay, this is the time. I was like, I'll try this, but I was thinking about it like constantly, like basically since like the pandemic, since like 2020, I've had like these little, like, I call them like whispers, and it would just be like, just little things being like, you need to stop drinking. Like just like little in my ear, and I'd be like, no. And it's like, you need to stop drinking. Like something seriously happened with your body. Like you are a mom. Like you're responsible for 2 young girls. Like you're literally drinking your life away. Like it's like, you know, and then I would wake up like every morning at like 3 o'clock in the morning to like pee or whatever, because that's what happens when you drink a lot. I would, like, immediately like have this like flood of like guilt and shame, being like, oh, like you have to stop, like not again. You said you weren't going to do this. Like you're going to die. Like you're going to leave your kids for what? Alcohol, wine, and like your girls are going to not have a mom, and like because she drank. And I was like, oh my God, get it together. But because then the day would come, like, you know, then you would wake up and you'd be like, oh, it's not actually that bad. I must have just been, you know, oh, it was the booze talking, it was the anxiousness, and like, and then you have like a rough day or something because you're probably a little bit hungover, and then you're like, you know what, it's fine. I'll do that tomorrow. I'm probably healthy. It's fine.
Yeah. Isn't everybody else is doing the same thing, right? You look around, you're like, I'm not homeless drinking out of a brown bag on a street, so I'm totally okay.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
This is what
that's something the nights I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and then just like beat the shit out of myself for another hour, right? Like, you can't keep a promise. You said you would do this. What's wrong with you? If you can't do this, what else can't you do? And then you're like, I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good worker. Who am I to do this? And it's before you know it, you're just like a piece of shit. And you're just like, okay. And then I love you said that. You're like, I'm probably just anxious, not realizing, oh, but that like alcohol is fueling the anxiety.
That's right. And because you feel like absolute shit and you can't deal with those emotions, you use the wine again later that day to feed those emotions, because you're like, I feel like I'm such a shitty person. And you're like, well, let's just drink away the
bad. Better. You're like, wait, it doesn't. It did it again.
You'd be like, when will you learn?
Well, I wanted, and I'd love to get, like, really explore with you this, like, because I'm not a mom. I have a lot of mom friends, but like the topic of motherhood and wine, especially. I'm posting this on the day after Mother's Day, but like, that moment you had of you're like, I can't like leave my kids because I drank too much. Like that's just not acceptable. But tell me, like, how much was that part of your momming role before you shifted?
It was 100%. Like,
Yeah.
I remember like being pregnant, the 2 times that I was pregnant, was the only 2 times that I was sober, like since I started drinking, like for a long stretch. Like even when I was like young, I didn't realize that I was an alcoholic. And like, so I would just drink, drink, drink. So when I got pregnant, I was like, this is great, but this is awful. Like, everybody else is drinking. Like, why can't I can't drink? Like, okay. And like, as soon as I gave birth to each one of my daughters, like 5 minutes later, I was like, can I drink now? Like, can I have a beer, celebrate? And like, yay, hello, baby. But like, yay, I was like, didn't think that that was weird because so many people also did that. And like people would bring champagne to the thing or like, oh, I can have wine. And then I don't know. I think it's just the internet or like just all of us millennials never had any coping mechanisms and we all became parents at once. We're like, everything is fine when you have babies. So I drank while they were little and like not during the day, but the same type of night that I did. And then never thought that that was like dangerous. Like sometimes I would be like, ooh, this is probably not a good idea. But then I'd be like, oh, well.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's fine. Fine.
That's fine if something's wrong. And you're like, now looking back, I'm like, oh my God. But like, it just seemed so normal. And it's like, oh, come over for a play date. And like, would you like white wine? Because we drink white wine during the day.
But you're classy.
For some reason, that's just acceptable. And then like, everything is just drinking. And I feel like it kept getting like worse and worse. And that's just, everybody kind of thinks that that's just the way that we cope, that women cope that way and that moms cope that way, and that's fine. Instead of being like, oh, I think the majority of mothers are completely shell-shocked, like after having babies. Everyone says, oh, it's postpartum or whatever. And then like, it's the same thing with drinking. Like after you have a baby, you're like, I don't think I have postpartum depression. I don't want to like, harm my baby. But you're like, but actually, like, I feel like a fish out of water. I feel depressed. I love this. Like, is something wrong with me? And then you're like, you use wine because that seems more acceptable than telling people that you're not happy being a mom. Like, and it's like, okay, just drinking's fine. Like,
and if like, oh, that's powerful right there, Erin. That thought of like, it's easier just to like medicate with booze and to be like, I don't love this phase of my life with my kid. Like, I love them. I'll like lay my life on the line for them, but like, I don't love it.
No. And women, like, I think it's getting so much better now. Like, because now social media is taking, I feel like it's taking like a healthier turn, but like now people are talking more about it. Like with TikTok, like people talk about their struggles more instead of back then it was like Instagram and everyone was making everything perfect. Now everyone can talk like this, right? Like how we're doing. But back then, like it's like, oh, you're fine. Motherhood's hard. Have wine instead of being like motherhood's hard. Let's talk about it. Like,
right. Because the shame of being like, no, I don't love this. I am depressed. I don't want to be a mom at this very moment. Right. Like that there's so much judgment on that.
And that's something that I feel a lot was the big driver with my drinking was the feeling of like shame. It was the feeling of like not being like enough. So like right from the jump when you have a baby, you're trying to figure it out and you're like, I suck as a mom. Like, how do I do this? And then the only thing you can do to like calm like this is drinking. So, like, I don't know, it's, I really wish that I could go back and like do it again and be like, God, I'm such a better, I just wish I wouldn't have drank because it made everything harder. you know, it made everything worse than I thought it was. Like, I thought it was making it easy. Like, oh, I just need
Yeah. Tell me about that. Like how is being a sober mom easier?
I have way more patience, like
Mm.
way more patience. And like, you really need that as a parent. It's a hot tip. But
Hot tip. You got it here.
but and like just like I just feel like kinder, and like I feel like I can handle things more instead of just getting like completely overwhelmed, right? Like because parenthood is all about like doing things on the fly, right? Like you always have to like pivot. Someone pooped their pants, someone's hungry, someone fell, and then you're just like, I'm so overwhelmed. And then you're like, I just need something to quiet this. But then it just makes it worse, right? Because when you're constantly drinking, you don't realize you're hungover, but you can't be like a jar. So you wake up, your kids aren't sleeping through the night. So you don't get like, you have the alcohol crappy sleeps, and then your interrupted sleeps. So you're not rested, you're not eating well, you're not taking care of yourself. You're just living until 4 o'clock when you get more wine. And then for me, as soon as I started drinking wine, I was like, oh, this is all I want to do is drink wine and stay in this feeling. So when my kids were being kids, I'd be like, oh, they're extra annoying, or like, stop. Like, you know, you just get extra short and be like, stop, and just not be a nice mama. And it wasn't like, wouldn't like be dangerous or hit them or anything like that, but just wasn't like the mom that I was like at 2 p.m. I was a different type of mom. Or maybe, and the worst thing that I think about is like, I thought that I was like getting away with it by drinking in front of them, like, you know, like at 4 o'clock, like they were still like awake, like, you know, like, and like, the more wine you have, it's like, oh, mommy's getting like kind of silly, like now I'm playful. And then like now being sober and seeing people drink just like a 1 drink, 2 drink, 3 drinks, and you can see the changes. You can smell it off of them. You can tell that their eyes are kind of like blur, like not focused. Right? And I was like, I was an idiot to think that my kids didn't.
Right.
And then like the one biggest thing that I noticed when I became sober is my oldest was never like super cuddly with me, but as soon as I became sober, she would be hugging me more, and she would be like, and I was like, it's 100% because I'm sober, because like you can like smell it off of people, and like, you know, like it's just a different, like I can smell when my husband has a beer, because now it's like different, right? And you're just like, ew.
There's like an energy behind it too, right? And like kids are smart, they're intuitive, they don't have like all the outside, they don't pick all the crap that we do, right? They're just like so pure. And so I'm sure they're like, oh, mom feels a little like just different. Like maybe I don't know what it is, but like it feels
she
like
doesn't really feel safe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it just is like, oh my God. Like, but you can't live in that. Like, we're learning and we're growing.
Well, and thank you for sharing that, because like, how do you deal, especially as a mom? Because like you know, mom guilt, it's just like no matter what you do, it's there, right? So like, you just said several times like you regret or you wish you wouldn't have. So like, how do you process that now as you're in this new phase for yourself? Like, how do you forget? How do you do that?
It's the worst. Because now I have to like feel the feelings. Because before I was like, well, honey, can you pick up some wine? Because I'm feeling sad about my regrets. But now you just have to like, I really don't know how I got through it, but I find it's helpful to talk about it. Like that's when I feel compelled to like get on TikTok and be like, hi, I'm going through this today. I'm feeling this. And you just kind of like talk about it, get it out of there. And then I just try and move on with my day, and then eat a lot of sugar because I substitute my sugar, but that's fine.
It's fine. You're like, I'll deal with that at a later point.
I'll deal with the sugar's fine.
How did this affect your mom friendships when you kind of shifted this?
It's funny because I found a lot of moms that I was around didn't drink, like, and I was the one that was drinking. And I was more of like the pusher, and I was the one that was like, they'd be like, oh, I'll just have like a glass of wine. And then I'd be like, a glass of wine? Like, I just had two while I was listening to your story. Like, gas pedal. So then I was like, oh, ooh, I think I like, I would feel like really shameful. And then I would notice that I was like more like, oh, okay, well, if we're going to go out with these people and like they don't drink, I'll have like a drink at home because I'm like nervous. And then like, I would say that it was like social anxiety, but it was really just an excuse for me to pre-drink before.
Right.
So I think friendship wise, like it's better for me because like now I'm on their level and I feel like I belong. Like before I kind of felt like I didn't belong because I deep down knew that I had a problem with alcohol. But I was more nervous that like my relationship with like my husband would change. And that was our thing. Like, I think about like going out, like having a relationship. It's like, let's go out for drinks. Let's go for a beer. Like, let's go for dinner, but like, let's get a bottle of wine. Let's, blah, 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 blah. And it's all just around alcohol. And so that was our bonding time. Like after the kids go to bed, like let's have a couple drinks and watch our TV shows together. And like, I just couldn't separate the fact that like to take the alcohol out, we could still have that relationship. I was like, oh, well, clearly we're done. If I stop,
clearly we're getting a divorce because we can't watch TV without booze. So obviously it's been fun. Thanks.
You don't love me for me. You just love me when I'm drunk. That is not the case.
So what's his relate? Is he still drinking or is he?
He does. But he's respectful and he doesn't drink often. So he'll drink, like if he goes to see his friends or if he's on the golf course, he might have one or two, but it's not like he won't do it with me. Like if maybe we're at a family dinner, everybody's having a drink. He might have a drink, but he won't be like, if it's just me and him, he won't just be like cracking beers or anything like that. So he's definitely supportive of like the choice that I made. So that's good. I still get like pretty jealous because like he can have a drink and stop, but like I can't. Because like I'd always be like, well, maybe I could just like moderate. And then someone on my TikTok comments was like, I've made this with no disrespect, but like, haven't you already tried that for like the last 20 years? Like, haven't you tried to moderate? Wasn't that what you were doing? And it didn't work. And I was like, damn, you're right.
Like, well, like technically, like I didn't say it was like, oh, fine.
Like, yeah, you're right. Okay, maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, you're right. I think this is the road I have to take. And then you kind of have to mourn that part of you, right? Like, oh, I want to have a beer on a sunny day like a normal person, but I can't. But then I have to think, well, why is that normal? Like, why can't it be normal just to not have a drink and have a Diet Coke or something?
Right. Like who told us that? Like, where do we buy into that? Like it has well, and and the relationship shifting, right? That can be a really big one. It sounds like you have that support and then family. So like when you do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
I find that it's so hard. Like I hate saying it, but because there's so many levels to alcoholism and it's so many gray area, like a spectrum, right? Kind of like,
for sure.
Oh, it's like the people who are really alcoholics who you think of, like the stereotypes, but then there's people like me who can't stop once I start. I shouldn't start because then I won't stop. And then that's like the definition of being an alcoholic. But we don't think of it that way, right? So I hate saying it because when you tell people that, they are like, ooh, like Frank Gallagher? Like from Shameless? Oh God. But then you're like, no, boy, I'm a normal person.
And it's such a good thing. And even as I said, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to ask this question, but you had mentioned it because it's like, does it matter? It's like as we decide, because like for me, I was like, all I knew is that what I was doing wasn't working. So it's a problem. That's it. Like
exactly.
If I vote, it doesn't matter if it's worse or less than anybody else. It just wasn't working for me. So I think it's but it makes people really uncomfortable, right? If you're like, oh, I just don't drink, and you're like, well, why not? You're like, it just doesn't work for me, and they're like, because then they start to think, wait, am I the problem now? Do I drink too much? Like,
I know. And that's the thing, like, and that's the hardest thing about being sober is to say no. Like when people will offer you a drink and you do feel like I have a lot of people that ask me the same question about like friends and stuff because they're so worried that their life will change for the worse once they give up alcohol, because alcohol is like the glue that holds it all together. And sure, there might be some friendships that you might lose along the way, but from my experience, like there's nothing to be scared of because you only get better and you can still be social. Like I was like, I could never like go to a party sober. And I'm like, yes, I can. Like I just leave a little bit early because everybody else is getting drunk and they're annoying.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's fine. Like I can still talk, and I find that I talk more now that I'm sober than before because I would convince myself I had social anxiety. And like,
isn't that interesting? And you're like, oh, I don't have social anxiety. I thought I did, and then I medicated, and then the stories that told myself, right? Like that piece.
Totally. Yeah, it's so weird.
So is there anything in your life that's gotten worse since you started sobriety?
My diet.
Your diet. Okay. Yeah.
Because you do, like, a lot of people warn me on TikTok and they're like, it's going to be like playing whack-a-mole with addictions, because it's not just one thing that you're like, you have an addictive personality. So chances are you're addicted to more things. Yeah. And it was true. It was like, with being addicted to alcohol, I also would be addicted to like shopping. And like, so that kind of went hand in hand. And then afterwards, like, they're just like, oh, you're going to have tons of sugar. And I was like, bring it. That's fine. Like, and that's what kept me sober in the first month. Like, that's the biggest advice that I have to share is like, if you're going to become sober, you need to be okay with like the other things that you do to cope, as long as you stay sober. Because I would be like, okay, great. All the gummy worm candies, all the cookies, all the chips, like all the pop, like just anything to keep me from not drinking. Yeah. And then you kind of, now I have to worry about that. Yeah. I was like, hey, I thought I was supposed to lose all this weight.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, I'm not.
I did a post on that. I was like 0 pounds. But I do the same advice. I'm like, if you want to do sobriety, that's all focus on. That's it. Yeah. Like everything else can be baseline. If you still work out, if you still walk, like, okay, whatever, keep that. But like, don't be like, I'm not going to drink and I'm going to be vegan and I'm going to train for a marathon. You're like, it takes so much energy. Your body is like getting rid of all the toxins. Like, let that be the one thing. That's it. That's it.
And the worst thing is you want to change everything else as soon as you're sober, because you feel so good and you're like, oh my God, well, let's change my entire life. Like, I am amazing. And then you're like, whoa, still the same person.
You're like, oh yeah, that stuff still comes up. Oh, okay, cool. And now it's just really real because now I can't medicate. Awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Great.
Perfect. Yeah. And then, of course, as relationships go, it's like, oh, of course my husband can handle alcohol. And of course he doesn't need a snack at night. And of course he doesn't need sugar. Meanwhile, I'm like, nom, 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 nom.
Just like in the closet, just eating Oreos.
And he's like, I've lost so much weight. And I'm like, isn't that special?
I had a friend who follows me and he's always like, I'm never going to do what you do. I'm like, that's fine. And like, he's like, I'll quit in 20 years. I'm like, call me in 20 years. We'll talk. Right. Like he just like gives me crap about, which is great. And he like had to do it because like he needed to get into shape for something. He's like, 2 months he had lost like 20 pounds. I'm like, you can F right off. Like, get out of here. Like, of course you did.
It's so not
But then
fair.
I also am like also really clear, like how crazy that we think the only reason we should not drink is to lose weight. Right. Like, and the other part, I'm like, that's a patriarchy coming in and being like, the only reason you shouldn't drink is to either raise babies or to like lose weight. And I'm like, but then like, I'm still like, that'd be nice to.
I know. It would be nice.
I know.
Oh God, it's the worst.
So what do you do in these social situations? Like, do you do mocktails? Like, do you do anything to help you get you through those times? Like anything?
Yeah, I love non-alcoholic beer. Like I find that like scratches the itch, especially on like those like sunny days and like,
Mhm.
you're oh, okay. And I just need like one because it scratches the itch, but it doesn't push the gas pedal like the alcohol in it would do. Because
Mhm.
one, I'd be like, this feels like 700 more. Like one, I'm like, that tastes good. I feel like I'm included in the world.
Yeah.
I don't need to have any more. Maybe I'll have two. But it's so funny. My husband and I say this all the time. It's like if we have beer, like regular beer, alcohol beer, it was like, yeah, you'd have like 3, 4, like sure.
Yeah.
Same thing with like pop. It's like you use it to like mix in with like your like rum or something.
Mhm.
We have like three Cokes or Diet Cokes a night. But now when you're sober and you just have one, it's like it seems insane to me to be like, I'm just gonna sit down and have three cans of Diet Coke tonight while watching a show. Like that seems so weird. But when it comes to alcohol, you're like, that's fine. What's wrong with that? That's actually good. You only have 3.
I like will have like I'll look at the I love like a non-alcoholic wine. I'm not a beer drinker. I've never been a beer drinker.
Yeah.
But I will like always look at the calories, and I'm like, girl, you never once looked at the calories for alcoholic wine. Not never. I never was like, oh, what is this? And now I'm like, oh, that's interesting, like 150 calories, and I'm like, totally worth it. But it's like I never did that before.
I don't even, at least where I am, they don't even post the calories on alcohol
Oh,
wine.
yeah.
But on non-alcoholic wine, they do, which I find very
That's
interesting.
actually very true too. Maybe that's why I didn't do it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Because then they're like, we don't want you to know.
Yeah.
You won't care after just one.
Yeah, it'll be worth it. Well, and like tell me maybe a little bit too. I'm curious, like, is we're still North America, we're not that far apart, but like, is Canadian mom culture the same way as you view American? Is it is it very similar?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of focuses on like these damn kids, like, it's like, and which is fine because everybody needs to vent. I think that's totally healthy. Yeah. But then, yeah, and then it's just like, I just can't wait. Like I remember, I just went through like, I don't know, Target or Walmart or something like that. And I was like looking at how many signs were like wine related, like drink, or like even in restaurants, like wine this way, or like it's all catered towards women being like, we drink wine, like that's just what we do. Yeah. And it's like, that's so weird that you just put us in a box, like just about drinking. That's all we do. Moms just drink. But yeah, I don't know. But I find like it's been really nice like, to be on TikTok and see, I love seeing everybody else's like daily routines and stuff. And I found like so surprised that like 20-year-olds, like 20-year-old women, they have their life so much more together than like when I was a kid. Even now. And they're like, I get up, I go to the gym, I have a green juice, I have this. And I was like, and they don't drink, right? And I'm like, that's amazing. Like more activities. Like I don't think we knew like when we were growing up that like there was an option. Like it was just like you go to university and like you drink and you're young and you drink. Like I had no idea that you didn't like that's not what you do. Like you didn't have that, right? But now I see all these young people, and I don't think Gen Z or lower, I don't think that they drink as much as other generations do, which is amazing.
Well, it's like peak like Sex in the City and Cosmopolitans, and like that's what you did. And it was a classy, like I remember I hated wine when I first had it, but I was like, oh, I needed what's the word? Get a taste for it because that's what adults do. And I'm gonna have to go to parties and I'm gonna go to meetings and blah blah. But like I think that, like you said, I think there's an era that nowadays people, I think alcohol will turn into like smoking, where people are like,
and it's funny that you say Sex in the City because I feel like that is the catalyst for women drinking. Like I feel like that was the show, that was the pop culture thing that like made women drink more. Because I was like, I don't remember it being a thing until like like a Cosmo and Apple Teeny, and they're all just drinking around. And it made it look really cool, right? Like,
right. You're in New York City, your fashion's great, you have a great apartment. Like, you're like, why would I not like have a Cosmo at lunch?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, man, that's something to strive for.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to be her when I grow up. I'm curious, you've talked about like you're more present with your kids, more patient. How much more mind space have you noticed since you quit? Like
Oh,
just
so much.
like what you can do with your creativity and yeah.
Like I found in the early months, like it was amazing because I was like,
Mm,
it is 8 o'clock and like I could go to the store if I want to because
mm,
anything. Or like I can, I was like cleaning, like, put the kids down. Okay, I'll tidy up so the next morning is better. I would never have done that because I would always
yeah.
like kind of drunk. So I've been
Yeah.
like, and then the house is messy and never clean. And I find I can stay on top of things more. Like I feel
Mhm.
like I still don't know if I'm the person that has my life all together because I think
Yeah.
I'm a little neurospicy in there. But like
Mhm.
I find I can get it together more and I could stick with things more. And I think like circling back to kind of what you said about when we would like shame ourselves in the middle of the night, breaking a promise to yourself. Like I always break promises to myself. Always, always, always. And like it just makes me feel good, even if I don't even recognize it, but that I can keep this promise to myself. And I'm like, look, I can do that. And it's almost like, I can do hard things because like this is like the hardest thing to break. And it's something that I never
Mhm.
thought ever that I would
Yeah.
be sober. I thought sober people were lame. I was like, they're so boring. I don't think I could ever be around them. And now
Yeah.
I'm like, oopsies.
My bad.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's just like, okay, now I can keep a promise to myself. And
Yeah.
I just feel like I became like a little bit more of an adult because
Mm.
I've always felt like I was never old enough. Like I always felt like, oh, I'm like 14 or I'm like 20. Like, how do I have kids? How am I in charge
Who
here?
are they? How'd they get here?
Right? What the heck? But then someone told me it's just like, no, like when you drink, like your I don't know, your brain doesn't grow or something like that. But
Yeah.
once you stop growing, I mean, once you stop drinking, your brain grows and like I don't know,
Mhm.
it just
Mhm.
you kind of grow up more. And I was like, I
Yeah.
can feel that, like
Yeah.
slowly but surely, like piecing my brain and like becoming an adult. And I'm like 40, so I'm like,
Yeah.
still got some ways to piece together, but I feel way more put together and like grown up than I did when
Oh,
I was drinking. Which is
and nothing, and I still stand by this, feels as good as like keeping a promise to yourself. I don't care what the promise is, right? I don't care what it is. It's maybe I'm gonna get up at 7 o'clock and go for a 2-minute walk. Great. I kept that promise. Like it feels so good. And I think when we talk about the sobriety one, it's like whatever your journey looks like figuring out how to like find that freedom is
totally,
like up levels you, but then it just opens up everything else, right? Like you have more confidence, you have less anxiety, you have more creativity, you have more time, you have more energy. So it's like twofold, right? You're like, oh, I did a lot of hard shit because I got this figured out. And now I can like do whatever it is that
I,
fuels me.
yeah. And why did I make everything harder
Mm.
by drinking? And no one
Yeah.
knows that's, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about like the benefits of sobriety or like they don't talk
Mhm.
about sobriety open, at least when that
Yeah.
that like we just didn't know. And now it's like you just thought, oh, you're sober, so you don't go out and you think you're just
Yeah.
drink tea and like what do you even talk about? But now it's like, no, you can have like a better life
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
you hold yourself down with all that like sludge, right? Like it's
Yes.
just just toxic, like let it like it is a toxic substance, but it just keeps you toxic, right? Like with those
Hmm.
and the guilt, and it doesn't fix your
Hmm.
feelings, it just fuels them almost
Yeah.
to like, I don't know, make you a lesser version of yourself.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. And like you said, when you're in the muck, you don't know you're in the muck, right? Like when
No,
you're in it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm more tired, but I didn't get sleep. And all of a sudden when you totally cleared out of your system, you're like, oh, that's what this feels like, right? And then when those emotions, they do still come up, right? But you're like, oh, then I can like handle them better, or like I know what my body needs. It's not just so it's like, but when you're in it, and I think especially as moms, probably right, you're like, this is just the way it is.
yeah,
This is just how we are, and you're like, not necessarily.
can actually be a little bit better.
A little, like, there's still, I'm sure, the stuff that comes up. You're always gonna have the mom guilt and the tired, like, that doesn't go away, but, like, it doesn't have to be this hard.
Yeah, like
Right?
you're not throwing gas on like the fire.
Yeah. Well, as we kind of wrap up, I'd love to hear, if there's especially I think, in the realm of speaking to moms, if there's like a mom who's listening, who's like, I love it, like that whisper, right? Like, or like feeling this a little bit of a conviction. What is like something you'd want to leave her with?
I'd say like, I find a lot of people when I talk about sobriety, they think that they also have to do it. Like if they see themselves in me, and it's like, you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to be slower. But if you do think even just a little bit that you might want to, you should. 100% you should. It's not as scary. Like you've done scarier things before, especially if you've had a child. That was way scarier. Like maybe exit your body is way scarier than quitting alcohol for a month just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's easier to do it with someone if you have someone to do it with. Like even if you just said to your friend or your mom or something to be like, do you want to like not do like just do a alcohol-free month? Because I find like for me a month is such a good time limit. Like I couldn't do just like a week, or I'm only drinking on Fridays, because I would make excuses, right? Like Thursday's almost Friday, or like Monday's basically Sunday, and like, so like that I would quit and break that promise to myself. But a month, you cross off the little days, see it. So my advice is just do it and try and do it with a friend if you can. And if not, do it with us.
Yeah, do it with us. Join us. Well, and I love that too, that piece of like, because they say that like alcohol, even like a glass, stays in your system for like a week, right? Which is why that like 30 days. And I love it because like, Erin, you're like, I never thought I'd be sober. I gave it a month, right? You're like, probably like me. I was like, I'll go this many days. I'm going to go to Napa and have drinks. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
I like this. And a month like gave you that awareness. And like, I bet a year ago, you never thought you'd be here.
No. And that's the thing too. It's like, if you start, please just give it a month, because your life will totally change. And like, you will be like, whoa, like it just gets so much better. And like in little ways, like ways that you could be proud. Like you're not gonna become a millionaire because you're sober, but like, like it just gets so much better. So stick with it. Just give it a try.
Try it out. Erin, you are such a gift. You are Homebody Hustler on TikTok, right?
Yes.
So I'll put that in the notes. People on TikTok follow her. She's amazing. I love watching you. I love your honesty, your vulnerability, and just your inspiration for people to try something different.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, give Erin a follow. If you like this show, please send it to a friend. If you're sober curious, check out the other episodes. And remember, everything you want is on the other side of saying no to that drink.